Hey guys, Apav here, and this is part of my series Gaming for Beginners. It's a top 10. I wasn't sure if I was going to name this top 10 or just do lists. It might vary, but I got 10 games for you that I think would be good for beginners. Originally, this was going to be just a list of best consoles for beginners, but I realized it really doesn't matter what console you get because that varies a lot depending on what you want. But no matter what console you get, there's some games that I think would be good to start off on. Now, this is just a random list of games that I've played throughout my time in gaming that I think would be good to sort of start off on. The list is basically good to best games for beginners, like the earlier games listed on this list, I'm gonna say are moderately good for beginners, and it's going to get increasingly better down the line. What I was looking for while I was looking in games was, one, obviously how easy the game is. And it's hard to judge easiness. I mean, you could just walk in a straight line and say, well, that's an easy game. But also something that kind of teaches you the controls and rewards you for how good you're getting, like any good game should do. When I first started gaming, I got a PlayStation 2, and I played a lot of 3D platformers, so I'm kind of coming from that angle. And a lot of people grew up on 2D platformers, and what a platformer is basically a game where the character jumps on a lot of platforms. You really get to know like the arc of how the character jumps. However, during that time, games also got more detailed and could have a story, which really made me want to continue playing, so I learned more about the story, kind of like watching a TV show. It kind of rewarded me with a cartoon, and that's something I've always really loved about the experience of gaming. So the first on the list is Infamous Second Son. Now, like I said, this is one of the more difficult ones at the beginning. I was focusing on controls, and Infamous Second Son isn't too difficult for someone who's experienced in gaming, but control-wise, it's probably the most complicated on the list because there's shooting and different power-ups and the basic platforming controls mixed in with parkour, but it's a really fun game with a really cool story. It's rated T, it's not extremely violent compared to the older Infamous games, and it's a game on modern console generations. So maybe if you're an older person getting into gaming who is willing to sit down and persevere, really stubborn, but also like a good story, Infamous Second Son is a really good game, and I really recommend it for anyone, no matter your skill level with video games.
A man, a plan, and an aerosol can.
Number 9 is Kanoa 2. Now, Kanoa 2 is a game I grew up on. It's a 2.5D game, basically meaning it acts like a 2D game, but it's in 3D, and sometimes the game acts like a 3D game. So again, this is another platformer. You only really move left or right, so it's simple in that control scheme. You only really have to worry about jumping and attacking, and there's some puzzle elements to it. It's a really cute kids game, basically, and I used to enjoy this game a ton. I only really could make it to the third sort of stage area when me and my cousin used to play it, but it's a good introduction to video games if you're not worried about completely beating the game, because it does get pretty hard at the end of it. But it has a pretty good progression, and it really goes over the controls well, so it will familiarize you with how modern controls work. It was also something I was looking for, since all modern controllers usually have 4 face buttons, 4 directional buttons, 2 analog sticks, and 2 trigger buttons. You kind of want something that will familiarize you with the control style, maybe not something that utilizes all the buttons right at the beginning though, because that might be a lot to get used to. So instead of going back to, say, a retro console like the NES that only does have 2 buttons, you only really want to look for games that utilize a few buttons in the beginning, which is why I'm pointing out Kanoa 2. It's available on the PlayStation 2, and a remaster of the original Kanoa is available on the Wii. I still favor the PS2 one, but the PlayStation 1 or the Wii version is still the same basic controls and a pretty fun game. Number 8 is Thrillville. I used to have a ton of fun playing Thrillville, and it's been released on a ton of different consoles. Any version is pretty much fine. It's a game where you create your own theme parks, and there's a lot of customizability to it, a lot of planning and strategizing with your earnings and trying to make your park the best park ever. But something I really like to do was just talk to everyone, because you could talk to people in the park and also learn how to make it better. It's just a very customizable game, running your own theme park. And since you could take it slowly, I thought it might be a good way to also learn the controls. It's a different kind of game, obviously. It's more of a strategy, businessy type of game with a lot of comedy aspects to it, but still a good game for beginners. I would recommend it, though, for people who are willing to put up with just some complications, because it is strategic and you'll be going through a lot of menus learning how to build things.
There are more than 50 different types of kangaroos.
I only like placental mammals.
Number 7 is Sly Cooper. Basically the entire series, but I'm recommending 3, or the most recent one on PS3 and PlayStation Vita, Thieves in Time. Sly Cooper is a game I grew up on. It is one of my favorite gaming series ever. It features Sly Cooper, a raccoon, going on different adventures with his gang. He's a thief, but he only steals from other thieves. And the game is all based around sort of this stealthy theme, but you also unlock gadgets in the second, third, and fourth one. I recommend the third and fourth one because they're kind of easier, plus you can kind of just hop into them. I would really recommend the third one before the fourth one, but they usually do a good recap at the beginning of each game so you understand what's going on. It's a 3D platformer, has a ton to it. Actually, all of them, I'm pretty sure, have a tutorial, so it teaches you the controls pretty well, especially the third one. If you choose to do the tutorial, they'll teach you all the controls and all that you'll have to do. This was a game I tried to get my mom to learn how to play when I was 9, and she played with varying degrees of success. I mean, she really couldn't get past the first section of the level I put her on, but I was near the end of the game to begin with, and she had never played a game before. It utilizes most of the buttons on the controller, but I think it does a really good job of teaching people how to play.
Which is why we specialize in stealing from criminals. After all, there's no honor, no challenge, no fun stealing from ordinary people. You rip off a master criminal, and you know you're a master thief.
Number 6 is Sonic. Just Sonic in general. Now, you want to do some research on Sonic before you just hop in. The original Sonic games are 2D, so they're side-scrolling games. And really, you only have to worry about a couple buttons, moving and jumping. And that's why I think it would be a good beginner game. However, older retro games are usually pretty difficult. It was sort of stemming back from when arcades were popular and games were sort of meant to kill you a lot, so you keep pumping money into it. It wasn't very beginner friendly, but it does present a challenge. Modern Sonic games are sometimes a hit and miss because the change into 3D was very hard to handle with the speed of Sonic in earlier 3D generations, but they got more polished around the PS3 generation. Sadly, again, it's a hit and miss because the development team of Sonic has been both lazy and pushed to the brim sometimes, where they don't really come out with the best quality product. A game I could recommend, though, is Sonic Colors on the Wii, Sonic Generations on the PS3, and I believe it's also on the Xbox 360. I think it came out on a lot of things, so just search up Sonic Generations. And the newest one, Sonic Forces, is pretty good as well, if not very cheesy, but it's still pretty cool if you're willing to put up with the story. It's something that I enjoy, but I have a feeling a lot of people would find it very cringeworthy.
You should be able to get into the factory through there. Stay alert.
This should be fun.
Number 5 is Little Big Planet. I'd like to clarify that this isn't like my top 10 favorite games, obviously. It's games for beginners, so I'm keeping that in mind. Little Big Planet isn't a game that I have been a huge fan of, but I know a lot of people who did get into it, and it's a cutesy game following your own character that's basically made out of a sack, and you can customize a lot of things. There's a bunch of different Little Big Planets. They're all 2.5D like Kanoa, and have a large multi-local player selection, so if you want to hop in with friends, you can do that too. That's the way I like playing it because I get kind of bored when playing it. However, a lot of people I know have had a lot of fun with it, and the controls aren't too difficult, and I think it would be a very good game to get started on.
So wait, one of the peoples has to drag and then the other person has to...
You just stay on, and then I jump on, or I get lost behind it, and then...
Oh, money! I forgot how to jump! Okay, wait.
The button that usually is jump.
You know what? Leave me alone. I don't usually do PlayStations.
But Xboxes use the same button placement.
Leave me alone! No!
Getting down near the bottom of the list, in fourth place is Mario Kart. I thought I had to get a racing game on here somewhere, and Mario Kart is a racing game just everyone knows about. There's a million different variations of it. I'm pretty much just talking about the whole series. It's a kart racing game, obviously, where you play as a bunch of different Mario characters, and there's power-ups and all that good stuff. I think it would be a good cartoony racing game to get into, and you can decide between difficulty and race with friends. In third place is Rayman 2: The Great Escape. Now, I've never played Rayman 2 on the PlayStation 2, and I believe it is kind of different. However, I have played it on the PlayStation 1, and people have complained that it's kind of easy, but I really like it. It's a really good 3D platformer during the PlayStation 1's generation, and I've just really enjoyed it. I haven't completely completed it yet, but anyone looking to get into gaming, again, it has the simple platformy control. I think the story is pretty simple, but still pretty good, and since with people complaining it being easy, it might be good for someone's first video game. This game is amazing. See you guys next time. Number 2 is LEGO Star Wars. Now, this can really apply to any LEGO game, especially the newer ones that have voice acting. I actually like that. A lot of people don't. But LEGO games, I used to have a ton of fun playing the licensed LEGO games. In LEGO Star Wars 2, I would love customizing my character and going back through the maps to collect more coins in order to buy stuff to customize my character more, or to buy new characters. And if you're a fan of a movie series and want a good first game, you might want to try a LEGO game, because the controls are fairly simple and easy to learn, and there's a lot of things to collect. This is something you can pretty much get on any console generation after the PlayStation 2, because they've pretty much been made consistently since then. They even made a couple for the Game Boy, although I wouldn't recommend those for a first-time game. They're more of a collecting novelty, but they can still be pretty fun too. Now, what would I think is the best game for beginners, or the best first game, or something along those lines? Well, I think the best game to hop in and just start playing is New Super Mario Bros. I haven't played New Super Mario Bros. Since the Wii, but it isn't as difficult as the original Super Mario Bros. And the simple control scheme makes it so anyone can sort of learn how to play. And it's just a fun adventure, especially if you have friends, and I'm gonna try to make it to the end. I did beat it once when I was staying all night at a friend's house, and we just played straight through it one night. It's a really fun game, and everyone should pretty much know how to play Mario at some point in their lives. So if you're looking to get into video games, I would definitely recommend New Super Mario Bros. And a lot of the Mario games you could pretty much recommend, but I think that is a good start. Well, thank you guys for watching, but we're not just done yet. I do have a couple honorable mentions. There's a lot of people who like retro games and classic arcade games, and I think games like Galaga and Pac-Man are pretty good beginner games, not because there's much progression, but they're pretty addicting and original games. I've always had a lot of fun playing those old retro games like Galaga, especially because it's always fun getting really high up in Galaga. It's the same feeling I get when I play Call of Duty Nazi Zombies, except that is definitely not a game I would recommend to someone who's never played video games before. Also, Dig Dug's a pretty good one. However, that one can be kind of difficult, but again, these are all simple titles that came out in the arcades and have been ported onto pretty much anything. You could probably find them on the computer for free on some website. I know for a fact you can do that with Galaga. Lastly, I would say Pokemon. So many people have grown up playing Pokemon on the Game Boy. I was not one of them. However, it's just a classic RPG with a lot of character and a lot of Pokemon to catch and learn. So, might well look into Pokemon. It's very strategy based, it's not action based, but that might be your thing. Plus, pretty much any traditional Pokemon game on the Game Boy or DS or 3DS isn't going to be too complicated in the controls department. The only complicated stuff would be in the actual gameplay, which is strategy. So that's another thing worth looking into. I hope this video was helpful, and I'll try to do more things like it in the future if anyone likes this sort of thing. I'm not begging for subscribers here, but if you would like to be notified the next time I make a video like this or have any questions about video games, subscribe and leave a comment. If you don't want to see anything like this before, I'm surprised you've watched this video for this long, but feel free to not subscribe. But please leave a comment telling me how I can improve. If you want. I don't know. It's your choice. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.